Mark Twain wrote, "If you tell the truth, you will never have to remember anything." Sometimes this can be a hard thing to do because being honest can require being courageous. But being honest is more than just telling the truth, because people will only think you are being honest if they trust you. So if your actions speak louder than words, how can you act honestly in order to build up trust with others? Let's talk about that. Welcome back to another video in the Strength of Character series. If you're new here, my name is Brandon. I'm a personal trainer, and I'm really interested in what it means for a young man to be healthy today. I know it's one thing for us to say like, oh, go get in the gym, build a great physique, and that's what self-improvement is, but what life is there to have if we also don't have great character? Well, the Greeks first kind of explored this when they were describing what it means to have human flourishing, or Eudaimonia, and they said that there were virtues that we can enact in our own life to live a virtuous, balanced life. Today, positive psychology has continued exploring and researching this, and they've described 24 character strengths that we all have in order to incorporate into our own lives to live a better life. We all have character to begin with, but it's up to us to actualize each of these strengths and use them in our daily lives to truly live a great life. If you want to find out what makes the best you already, go take the free character strength survey, find out what your top strengths are so that we can start using them a little bit more in your day-to-day life. That being said, today's video is about the character strength of honesty, which is another strength under the virtue of courage. So let's run it. So what is honesty? Well, to use honesty means you speak the truth, but it goes further than that. To use honesty, to have honesty, means you act authentically, no matter the person you're talking with or scenario you find yourself in. You take full responsibility for your actions and your feelings, and you don't want to act untruthful to them, no matter what they are. This helps you become a person with integrity, and it helps you build trust with others. But also, the more you do this, it helps build trust with yourself. Honesty is an interesting strength because you don't go out intentionally using it like love or self-regulation, and so it's what's known as a corrective strength. It's a little bit more reactive or subconscious, as a way to put it. And when you have honesty and when you're using honesty at its best, it's when you're most in tune with that voice in the back of their head that kind of reminds you what decisions are the easy wrong decisions, and it helps tell you what decisions are the hard right decisions. So again, when you're using honesty at its best, you're just able to really hear that very loudly in your head. And when you're able to be in tune with that, it helps you stay away from decisions that may become mistakes or regrets later on, which essentially just means you have boundaries in life and you have values, and being in tune with honesty is how you're able to more clearly uphold them, which is a great strength for anyone to have. I mentioned at the end of the last video on perseverance that honesty is what helps you confront your ego. And this makes a lot of sense because your ego is what wants you to make those easy wrong decisions. But if you're going to act honestly, you have to take full responsibility for your actions in order to act truthful. And so this is a great thing about honesty because it helps you get the most out of life, and you also get a sense of control over your own actions and over your life in general. You know your own values and you know your own interests, and you won't sacrifice them. This can be a great strength and a great feature of honesty, but don't let this go overboard and turn into a form of negative judgment when your values and interests differ from someone else's. I'll talk about this more later on when covering how we overuse honesty, but reframe this to think about how you can use this as a way to just become more aware of others' values and interests and how you can help them act more truthful. So that being said, here's some ways that you can start using honesty a little bit more in your everyday life. How well do you honor the commitments and compromises in your relationships? So think about how you act when no one else is around to hold you accountable. And don't forget to think about the relationship you have with yourself. Whether physically through your wardrobe or just through your actions, what are some ways you like to stand out from the crowd, or what are some ways you completely agree and like to blend in with the crowd or just other people in society? When you make a mistake, no matter how small, how easy is it for you to take responsibility for it? Could this be different in mistakes you make in a relationship, or mistakes you make at work, or mistakes you make just taking care of your own health? For something to do in real life, I challenge you to think about a partial truth you told someone. I know you know what I'm talking about, so try and figure out a time to meet with them and give them the full details. You owe it to yourself to at least live a life without guilt, but you need to confront the full truth and be honest with them, and at the very least, just be honest with yourself. Journal about the whole thing if you need to just write out your full ideas about it, and maybe think about why are you not willing to tell the full truth here? For some smaller everyday actions, think about when you're at work, with friends, with classmates, somewhere you're out in public talking with others, and try to avoid saying anything that you think feels fake or inauthentic. Be clear with what you say and try to avoid using subtle disclaimers or minimizations that may pull you away from your honesty. And what I mean by that is when you're in a friend group and you're hanging out with other people, or you're just in a social setting, it's easy for us to say, oh, I'll have whatever everyone else is having, just so that way you feel like you're not being a burden on anyone else. But try to not back down from your honest thoughts. You could say, instead of, oh, I'll have what everyone else is having, you could say that, but you could also say instead, the pepperoni pizza sounds nice to me. What would everyone else like? Also, for a similar experience, I challenge you to avoid saying sorry or apologizing if you've done nothing wrong. I think we find ourselves doing this in daily life a lot. So for example, if you're ordering food off of a menu, again, another food experience, and you're taking a really long time, and I think it's common for us to say like, oh, sorry, it's taking me so long, you can actually reframe this to be an opportunity to give others praise. And you could say, thanks for your patience. This one's taking me a little bit longer than usual. I haven't quite made up my mind today on this one. Or similar thing, if you have like an answer in class, something you get called on, but you don't quite have the answer right, you can say, thanks for waiting for me on this one. I'm really thinking hard on this today. We have all these scenarios that we don't always necessarily need to apologize because we've done nothing wrong. And so the more you can actually flip this and reframe these into more of an opportunity to give praise to others, you can get a double whammy out of this. You can act more authentically and more honestly because you've done nothing wrong, but you can also help praise others and see the goodness in them. And you can enjoy the strengths that they're expressing in that moment as well. To see honesty in action, I think Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is a really great example. I think it really plays on that idea of taking full responsibility for your own actions, that we can act truthful in every action, every decision you make. On the other end of it, I also recommend The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Manson. It's kind of like, as a book sommelier, if I were to be one right now, these cover both sides of honesty, where you can act fully responsible for all of your actions and be fully truthful in all of your actions, but on the other end of it, also acting just like, I don't care what anyone else thinks, I'm going to do me. That side of honesty as well. If you aren't a big reader, I highly recommend watching the movie The Blind Side. And I think at its core, it's about honesty, and it's about exploring the question, how do we act with integrity in all areas of our life? It's a great movie, but think about each character in that movie and how they're able to grow when they're able to trust others more and act more honest to who they are in all areas of life. Great movie. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, honesty can turn into something else when you're kind of overusing it. So, as the Greeks said, it's important for us to strive for the golden mean in our life, or to strive for a sense of balance with how we use and how we act with everything in life. Underusing honesty is understandable because it's difficult for us to be perfectly honest every time a new situation challenges us to be. And that's because our subconscious minds program us to deflect blame, protect us from painful or embarrassing feelings, and somehow craft deceptive ways to live with half-truths. At the end of the day, our ego and our subconscious wants to protect our self-image. So one thing that may happen is we use disclaimers such as like, I'm a man, so I don't use skincare routines or wear fashionable clothes. We can sometimes also react with immediate exaggerations in order to avoid intimacy or our feelings. And this could be something like, you're overreacting, calm down, or oh, you're just angry, or something like that, rather than actually confronting what the problem is within the relationship and being willing to have a conversation around ways we may have messed up or made mistakes. And another common one is rationalization, which we use to somehow neglect our own desires or other things that we may want but don't always necessarily have. So this could be as stupid with common dating examples of like, oh, she texted 5 minutes ago, so I should wait 10 minutes to reply to not appear clingy or something like that. It's inauthentic behavior, and that's a bad way to It's a way to underuse honesty. The truth here is there are many social situations in which underusing honesty is the easiest and simplest thing to do. I'll fully acknowledge that sometimes this is appropriate, but in many scenarios we need to challenge this. Our self-image is not built off of appearances, the fact that we made a mistake, or arbitrary reply times. It's built off of trust, which only comes from authenticity and integrity. And other times we may think others can't handle the truth, or we shouldn't share our honest selves because we feel like other people may take advantage of that, and so we underuse our honesty in those scenarios as well. These subtle ways of protection were probably really useful and healthy in the past, but they will put limitations on our relationships with ourselves and with others in adulthood. If we wish to grow, we need to challenge these and try to confront them and figure out at the core why it is that we are unwilling to be honest and be most honest in these scenarios. So, if you feel others can't handle the truth, maybe challenge yourself to think, is it because you're uncomfortable sharing the truth to begin with? On the other hand, if you are hesitant being vulnerable, it could be a lack of trust that's at the core of this. Now, don't get me wrong, this could be completely reasonable because there are toxic people out there, and unfortunately, people do take advantage of others. Consider, though, why do you lack a trust of the other person, and could you challenge yourself to be a little bit more open and a little bit more honest in that relationship that you want to grow? Now, for overusing honesty, too much truth-telling can be hurtful and disrespectful to others. It can also lead us into feeling somehow like morally superior, especially when we're getting political with preaching truth or whatever. The Greek philosophers explored what truth is, and they came to a few conclusions. One, there is such thing as universal truths, but they're more so just like human beings enjoy beauty in life, and their good and bad exist. Those are universal truths. But there's also truth that is a little bit more nuanced. So they came to another conclusion that truth is probable sometimes. So the question is not, is it so black and white of what truth is? But the question is it more true than not? Or is something more good than bad? Or is it more bad than good? Think of like the yin and yang. There's always some good in the bad, and there's always some bad in the good. The question is, how much good is in the bad? So with that understanding, when trying to be honest, we need to have a firm grasp of what we understand truth to be and how we can communicate it in a kind and respectful manner. So those are other strengths that you can incorporate when trying to also be honest, especially in political realms, in arguments, and debates. Now, political advocacy and advocacy for any form of truth can be a good thing, but too much honesty can sometimes make our problems even worse, even if we are saying nothing wrong. So that all being said, how we act must also be rooted in trust, and trusting other people that we can live in a society that incorporates all of our ideas, all of our ideals in the same place, and we can tolerate others but still advocate for our own selves as well. Sometimes that means sharing a smaller version of the truth is best. Think back to like how the Greeks said that sometimes something can be more true than not, and so a smaller version of the truth is still very true, it's just not the full in your face 100% truth. For a smaller everyday example, this is especially applicable when giving feedback. If we were a manager at a store and we were training someone new, a new employee that just got on the job, and they weren't necessarily good at their job, if we went up to them and said, "You suck at your job, here's 3 reasons why." That's very straightforward, gets very to the point, that's very honest, but it could likely kill the employee's passion for the job and make them disinterested in actually working there and doing a good job of work. If we say they suck, or in other terms, if we express no kindness when actually giving feedback, why would that employee express interest in working there, or at least trying to do more than the bare minimum, or taking on extreme ownership in that job like Jocko Willink says? A better way to give feedback to that new employee while being honest and being kind at the same time would be something along the lines of, "Hey, I noticed you're giving great effort on these things, but I noticed you're still not doing them quite well. Here's 3 different ways that you can try and do this, and here's 3 reasons why. I need you to do them in this new way. I think it'll be a little bit difficult to get down, but once you get it down, you'll get the hang of it, no problem." Now, I know it takes a lot more effort and intention to craft responses with kindness and honesty at the same time together, but that goodwill will compound and give you so much more reward later down the line in those relationships and make for such more powerful, stronger relationships in the future. So, final thoughts. At your best with honesty, you act truthful to yourself and others. You present who you are and your emotions accurately and kindly to each person, and you take full responsibility for all your actions, even if you think they are small, mundane, or you think other people would even care about them or notice them. How you live and how you act is deeply important to you. Alright, that is a wrap on the strength of honesty. If you enjoyed this video, if you have any other insights of your own, leave a comment, leave your feedback down below in an honest way. I would really appreciate that. We got more videos to come just like this one, incorporating positive psychology with self-improvement. I'm really tired of shallow advice given by other people, and I figured why not dive into actual psychology research at the VIA Institute on Character. If you want to figure out your own top strengths, again, go take their free survey. And as always, I got more videos on strengths to come. This is one of the last ones in Courage. We have one more in Courage, which is the strength of Zest. It's a really interesting one of my lower ones, so it'll be fun to kind of portray. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take care of yourselves, and you will catch me in the next one.